What's the real difference between just hearing something and actually understanding it? Well, a lot of the time, it all comes down to how that information gets reported back to you. So today, we're going to break down the art of reporting what people say. If you can get this right, you'll become a much clearer, more precise, and believe me, a far more credible communicator.
You remember playing that game Telephone as a kid, right? Where one person whispers a message and by the time it gets to the end of the line, it's something completely different? Well, that's not just some silly game. It's honestly the perfect metaphor for what happens in our day-to-day communication. And it's exactly why being precise is so important.
And that brings us to this really fundamental choice we have to make pretty much every day when we're passing along what someone else told us. Do we quote them exactly, word for word, or do we kind of summarize the main idea? That one little decision, right there, is at the heart of everything we're going to talk about. So this choice gives us two really powerful tools to share information: direct speech and reported speech. Let's really dig into what they are and, more importantly, when you should use each one. So what's the actual difference? Well, think of direct speech like a perfect recording. It's the speaker's exact words, literally wrapped up in quotation marks. For example, Juan said, "I will start the course tomorrow." Reported speech, on the other hand, that's more like the summary. It paraphrases the message, so it becomes, "Juan said that he would start the course the next day." See? Two different ways to get the same idea across, but each has its own unique structure. Okay, now for the really practical part. How do you actually move from one to the other? It's not just guesswork. There's actually a surprisingly simple system. It all boils down to making just three key shifts. Think of this as your rule of three for clear reporting. Whenever you go from direct to reported speech, you almost always need to adjust three things: the verb tense, the pronouns, and any words that talk about time and place. Let's go through them one by one. First step is the verb tense. And the golden rule here is pretty simple. You just take one step back into the past. So the future will becomes the conditional would. If someone says, "I am studying," it becomes "he was studying." It's just a logical step backward in time, anchoring what was said to the moment it was actually spoken. And you can see how this pattern plays out all the time. Simple present shifts to simple past. Simple past moves to past perfect. Now, I know a chart like this can look a little complicated, but there's a clear logic to it. It's a really predictable system, not just a bunch of random rules you have to memorize. Okay, the second shift is all about perspective, and that means you've got to change the pronouns. They have to shift to make sense from the point of view of the person reporting the story. So if she says to me, "I will call you," when I report it, it becomes, "She said she would call me." The I becomes she, and the you becomes me. It's an absolutely essential change to keep things accurate. And the final piece of this puzzle is updating any words that anchor the statement in time and place. Tomorrow logically becomes the next day. Yesterday becomes the day before. Words like here have to become there, and this turns into that. You're basically moving the whole context of the quote along with the words themselves. All right, so once you've mastered those three shifts, you have the mechanics down cold. But now it's time to elevate your game. This is where we go from just relaying information to interpreting it with real nuance and precision. And the key? It's moving beyond one of the most overused words in the English language: said. The word said is fine, it's neutral, it's functional, but it doesn't tell us how something was said. Was it a warning? Was it a suggestion? An admission? Using more descriptive reporting verbs, well, that adds a whole new layer of meaning and gets us way closer to what the speaker really intended. Just take a look at a few of these. Every single one of them carries its own specific flavor. Reporting that someone warned you is completely different from saying they suggested something, right? This is the big difference between just repeating words and actually explaining what happened. Let's see this in action, because this is where it gets good. The first sentence: "The manager said the team made a mistake," is just a neutral fact. It's okay, but look what happens when we change one word. One employee admitted he had forgotten to review the report. Boom, we've completely reframed the situation. Admitted implies responsibility. It gives us so much more insight. One word can literally change the entire story. So why did we just spend all this time breaking down these grammar rules? I mean, what's the point? Well, because this isn't just about passing an English test. This skill has a direct, real-world impact on how people see you, both in your professional and your personal life.
When you can accurately and precisely report what other people have said, you build trust. People see you as credible. You avoid that whole telephone game of miscommunication that can cause so many problems. And ultimately, you just become a much more effective and compelling storyteller because you can share not just the words, but the true meaning behind them.
So I'll leave you with this. The next time you're about to retell a conversation, just pause for a second. Ask yourself, am I just repeating the words that were said, or am I truly explaining what was meant? What story out there could you be telling more precisely?